The first sound is so faint that you almost mistake it for the breeze. Hoofbeats echo, slow and unhurried, one after another. The morning mist still clings to the valleys of Western Wales, softening every distant ridge until the countryside seems to drift between waking and dreaming. Sheep graze quietly among dew-covered grasses, while a skylark greets the first hint of dawn with a gentle song. You follow the sound along an ancient path worn smooth by countless travelers. Wildflowers sway beside the trail, and clusters of foxgloves bow beneath the weight of tiny bees beginning their day's work. Somewhere ahead, hidden within the silver veil of mist, a white horse walks at an effortless pace. Its steady footsteps seem as old as the hills themselves. As the fog slowly parts, a lone rider comes into view. She sits with quiet confidence, her pale cloak stirring softly in the morning breeze. Her gaze remains fixed upon the winding road before her, as though she has traveled this path through every season and every generation. The white horse neither races nor lingers. It simply continues onward, always just beyond easy reach. For centuries, storytellers across Wales have remembered this mysterious woman. Some knew her as a wise and gracious queen. Others believed she had crossed into our world from the enchanted realm of Annwn. Whatever they believed, they agreed upon one thing. Wherever Rhiannon traveled, time itself seemed to slow, and even life's greatest hardships never stole her quiet dignity. So this evening, settle comfortably and relax. Allow the concerns of the day to gently drift away, and join me as we wander through the mist-covered hills of ancient Wales. Together, we'll follow the ancient road in search of one of Celtic mythology's most enduring figures, discovering the timeless legend of Rhiannon. Welcome to the Sleepy Legends channel. Tonight, our journey leads us into the peaceful landscapes of medieval Wales, where we'll walk beside an ancient road that has carried kings, queens, travelers, and storytellers for countless generations. Along the way, we'll discover the tales preserved in the Mabinogion, wander to the edge of Annwn, listen for the magical birds whose songs could calm weary hearts, and follow the quiet footsteps of the woman who rode the white horse. Before we continue, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe, but only if you've been enjoying these peaceful journeys through mythology, folklore, and history. Your kindness helps our little community continue to grow, allowing us to share many more relaxing stories together. The mist begins to gather once more across the hills. The hoofbeats continue somewhere ahead, steady and unhurried. The ancient road is waiting, and our journey begins. Morning arrives slowly across the kingdom of Dyfed. A light veil of mist lingers above the valleys, while the first warmth of the sun begins to touch the green hills beyond the forests. The ancient road winds through meadows bright with wildflowers before disappearing once more among gentle slopes where travelers have walked for longer than memory can measure. Along this quiet road rides a woman upon a white horse. She neither urges the horse forward nor asks it to slow. The animal moves with an easy, effortless rhythm, each hoofbeat as steady as the one before it. There is no sign of haste. The rider seems perfectly content to let the morning unfold around her, as though she knows that every path arrives exactly where it is meant to. Not far away, The prince named Pool is riding with his companions. His lands stretch across the southwestern corner of Wales, a place of broad valleys, winding rivers, and woodlands where stories have long traveled as faithfully as the people who carried them. In later centuries, these ancient tales would be gathered into a remarkable collection known as the Mabinogion, preserving legends that had already been shared beside hearth fires for generations. Among all of those stories, few introductions are remembered with greater affection than this one. Poole notices the rider in the distance and is immediately struck by her grace. Her pale garments catch the morning light, and the white horse beneath her seems almost luminous against the green hills. She is close enough to see, yet somehow remains just beyond ordinary reach, as though the landscape itself has quietly chosen to keep a respectful distance between them. Curious, Poole asks one of his riders to follow her. The messenger urges his horse forward, but no matter how quickly he rides, the distance never changes. The mysterious woman continues at exactly the same gentle pace. She never glances behind her, never asks her horse to move faster, and yet she cannot be overtaken. At last, the rider returns, puzzled by what has happened, unable to explain how someone traveling so calmly could remain forever ahead. Another rider is sent. The result is exactly the same. One after another, skilled horsemen discover that speed offers no advantage. Their horses breathe harder, hooves strike the earth with greater urgency. The woman upon the white horse continues as she always has, unhurried and serene, her steady rhythm untouched by every attempt to catch her. There is something quietly enchanting about the scene. No challenge has been spoken. No contest has begun. The morning remains peaceful, filled with birdsong and drifting clouds. Yet the ordinary rules of distance seem to have softened beneath the gentle spell of the landscape. Many centuries later, listeners still smile at this moment. It feels almost playful, reminding us that not every mystery announces itself with thunder or dazzling magic. Sometimes wonder appears on an ordinary morning, riding quietly along an ancient road while everyone else tries just a little too hard to catch up. At last, Poole decides to ride after her himself. His horse is swift, and before long he has crossed the same hills where his companions had failed. Still, the distance remains unchanged. The white horse continues its gentle pace, neither fleeing nor waiting. It is simply there, always just ahead, as though inviting him to discover a different way of reaching her. For a few moments, the only sounds are the steady rhythm of hoofbeats and the breeze moving softly through the grasses. The road curves gently between the hills, carrying both riders beneath an open Welsh sky that has watched countless journeys unfold across the centuries. Then Poole does something wonderfully simple. Instead of urging his horse to run faster, he calls out to the mysterious rider, asking her, with every courtesy a prince could offer, to wait. The white horse comes to a graceful halt. The woman turns in her saddle with a warm expression that suggests she has been expecting this moment all along. When she speaks, her words are gentle, touched with quiet amusement. "It would have been far easier," she tells him, "to ask me to stop than to tire your horse." With those few words, one of the most beloved conversations in Welsh mythology quietly begins. The morning seems to grow even quieter after her words. Poole allows his horse to settle into an easy walk, and for a few moments neither rider feels any need to hurry. Around them, the hills of David stretch beneath a widening sky, their green slopes softened by lingering ribbons of mist that drift lazily through the valleys. The ancient road continues ahead, as though it has patiently waited for this meeting since long before either traveler began the journey. The woman regards the prince with calm, thoughtful eyes. There is no trace of annoyance that he has followed her across the countryside, nor any pride in having remained beyond his reach. Instead, she speaks with the quiet confidence of someone who understands that patience often succeeds where speed cannot. She tells him that her name is Rhiannon. The name itself has echoed across Wales for many centuries, carrying with it a sense of mystery that scholars still explore today. Some have suggested that Rhiannon's story preserves memories of an ancient sovereignty figure, a woman whose presence symbolized the rightful bond between a ruler and the land itself. Others simply accept her as one of the most memorable women to appear in the old Welsh tales, allowing the mystery to remain where legends often belong. Rhiannon explains that she has come seeking him. Poole listens with quiet surprise. It is not every day that a stranger appears upon an ancient road and calmly announces that she has crossed the countryside with the purpose of finding a prince. Yet there is such honesty in her voice that disbelief never quite finds a place to settle. The birds continue their gentle songs from nearby hedgerows, and the white horse lowers its head to graze among the grasses while the conversation unfolds. She tells him that her father has arranged for her to marry another nobleman, a man named Gwal. The wedding has already been promised, and many would expect the matter to be settled without question. Yet Rhiannon has reached a different decision. She has heard of Poole's wisdom and character, and she has chosen him instead. In the world of medieval Welsh storytelling, moments like this quietly stand apart. Noble marriages often served families, kingdoms, and alliances rather than personal wishes. Yet here, at the very beginning of Rhiannon's legend, we meet a woman who calmly shapes her own future. She does not argue loudly or seek to overturn the customs of her world through force. Instead, she chooses with remarkable clarity, trusting that quiet determination can be stronger than hurried action. Poole listens carefully before offering his answer. He tells Rhiannon that no honor could be greater than the one she offers. If she truly wishes to become his wife, then he will gladly stand beside her. His words are measured and respectful, matching the peaceful rhythm of the morning itself. Neither promises more than can honestly be given, and neither speaks with unnecessary flourish. The ancient road seems perfectly suited to such a conversation, where thoughtful words matter more than hurried speeches. Together, they begin to consider what must happen next. Rhiannon explains that she cannot simply disappear before the promised wedding. Instead, Poole should come to her father's court exactly 1 year from this day. There, during the great feast prepared for her marriage, events can unfold in a different way. She speaks with such quiet certainty that the plan seems less like a clever scheme and more like another turning in the road that has already carried them together. The white horse lifts its head once more. A light breeze ripples through its bright mane before continuing across the open hills, carrying the scent of wild thyme and damp earth. Somewhere above, Clouds drift slowly across the Welsh sky, their shadows moving gently over fields where generations of shepherds have watched the seasons come and go. When at last the conversation draws to a close, there is no grand farewell. Rhiannon offers Poole a warm smile before guiding her horse forward once again. The familiar rhythm of steady hoofbeats returns to the ancient road, neither hurried nor slow, until horse and rider begin to dissolve into the morning mist. Poole remains where he is for a little while, watching the quiet figure disappear beyond the next rise, knowing that the simple meeting upon this peaceful road has changed the course of his life. Long after the sound of hoofbeats has faded, the road remains. It has carried strangers together before, and it will do so again. For now, it simply rests beneath the morning sun, keeping the memory of a conversation that began with a gentle request to stop and ended with the promise of meeting again 1 year hence. The seasons turned gently across the hills of Wales, just as they always had. Spring meadows gave way to the warmth of summer, and summer slowly surrendered to the rich colors of autumn before winter wrapped the valleys in quiet mornings of frost. Through every changing season, the ancient road remained, carrying shepherds to distant pastures, merchants toward busy market towns, and wandering storytellers whose memories preserved the old tales long before they found their way into the Mabinogion. For Poole, the passing year was measured not only by the changing landscape, but by a promise made beside a misty road. He ruled his kingdom with care, yet the memory of Rhiannon often returned during quiet moments. He remembered the calm confidence in her voice, the gentle rhythm of the white horse's footsteps, and the simple wisdom of her first words. Some meetings arrive with great celebration. Others begin almost quietly enough to be carried away by the morning breeze, yet remain with us for a lifetime. At last, the appointed day arrived. Poole gathered a small company of trusted companions and followed the ancient road eastward toward the royal court at Arbroath. The countryside welcomed them with broad green hills, peaceful woodlands, and streams that shimmered beneath the autumn sunlight. Ravens circled high above distant ridges while larks rose from the fields, filling the clear air with cheerful songs that drifted across the valleys. In the centuries when these stories were first shared, journeys such as this were an ordinary part of life. Roads were often little more than well-traveled paths connecting one community to another. Travelers judged their progress by familiar hills, ancient standing stones, winding rivers, and solitary trees that had watched generations come and go. Every journey unfolded at the steady pace of horse and foot, allowing the landscape itself to become part of every story. As the day drew on, Poole's company climbed a gentle rise where the royal settlement came into view. Timber halls stood within sturdy earthworks, their thatched roofs glowing warmly beneath the afternoon light. Thin streams of smoke drifted upward from cooking fires, while voices, laughter, and the distant sound of music floated across the open fields. A great feast was already underway. Hospitality held a place of deep importance in medieval Wales. Guests were welcomed with generosity, food was shared freely, and conversation often stretched long into the evening. Around these tables, alliances were strengthened, disputes were quietly settled, and skilled storytellers passed along the legends that would survive for centuries. Every gathering became another thread in the memory of the community. Poole entered the hall with courtesy, greeting the assembled nobles according to custom. Before long, Rhiannon saw that he had come exactly as promised. Though many people filled the great hall, her calm smile revealed that she had never doubted he would keep his word. The ancient road had carried them together once before. Now it had brought them to the place where promises would quietly begin to shape the future, just as Rhiannon had always believed they would. The great hall glowed with the warmth of many hearth fires. Long wooden tables were filled with fresh bread, roasted meats, cheeses, and autumn fruits gathered from the surrounding countryside. Clay cups passed easily from hand to hand, while musicians played quiet melodies that mingled with friendly conversation. Beyond the open doorway, the ancient road disappeared into the gathering evening, as though patiently waiting for the next chapter of the journey. Poole was welcomed with every courtesy due a visiting prince. The lord of the court invited him to name whatever gift or favor he desired, following a custom that reflected both generosity and honor. Such promises carried great weight. Once spoken before family, friends, and honored guests, they were not easily withdrawn. For a brief moment, the hall became wonderfully still. Poole rose from his place and answered with quiet respect. He asked for the hand of Rhiannon in marriage. No angry voices answered his request. No one hurried to speak. Instead, those gathered around the tables waited to hear how the promise already made would be honored. Medieval Welsh tales often unfold this way. Their moments of greatest importance are not always marked by battles or raised swords, but by thoughtful words spoken carefully, allowing wisdom and courtesy to guide what follows. Before the lord of the court could answer, another man stepped forward. His name was Gwal, the nobleman to whom Rhiannon had originally been promised. By every expectation of the day, he had come to celebrate the wedding that would soon unite the two families. He stood with dignity, neither boastful nor cruel, but quietly surprised to discover that another path had opened before him. Rhiannon listened without interruption. When the hall had grown silent once more, she rose from her seat and spoke with the same calm certainty that Poole had first encountered upon the ancient road. She explained that although the agreement with Gwal had been made, her own heart had never given its consent. She had chosen differently, and it was Poole whom she wished to marry. The words were neither dramatic nor defiant. They were simply honest. Even now, they remain one of the most remarkable moments in her legend. Rhiannon does not argue for power or seek to embarrass anyone before the gathered guests. She speaks with quiet confidence, trusting that truth, expressed with kindness, possesses a strength of its own. Gwal listened carefully. After a thoughtful silence, he answered with unexpected grace. Although disappointed, he agreed that a promise freely given should be honored. The gathering relaxed, relieved that wisdom had prevailed over anger. Yet before the evening had ended, Gwal made a simple request. He asked that the wedding be delayed for 1 year, allowing him time to accept the change with dignity. Rhiannon agreed. The musicians began to play once more. Conversation slowly returned to the hall, and servants continued carrying food to the tables as though the evening itself had breathed a quiet sigh of relief. Outside, twilight settled gently across the hills of Wales. The first stars appeared above the distant ridges, while somewhere beyond the fields, unseen in the deepening dusk, The steady rhythm of hoofbeats echoed faintly along the ancient road. The road had witnessed many promises through the centuries. Some were spoken in joy, others in sorrow. Some were faithfully kept, while others faded like footprints after rain. This promise, however, would lead to a lesson no one gathered in the hall could yet imagine. For patience, wisdom, and a simple cloth bag would soon become part of one of the most beloved stories preserved in the Mabinogion. A year passed as quietly as the one before. Spring returned to the valleys, wildflowers once again brightened the hillsides, and the ancient road welcomed travelers who scarcely noticed how many footsteps had come before their own. Rain fell gently upon the fields, rivers continued their patient journey toward the sea, and the white horse remained a quiet presence in the imagination, never seeming very far from the winding paths of Dyfed. When the appointed day arrived, Poole and his companions traveled once more to Arbroath. The familiar road carried them across rolling hills and through peaceful woodlands until the royal hall appeared once again upon the rise. From a distance came the cheerful sounds of another great celebration, for preparations were underway for Rhiannon's wedding to Gwal. Yet this time, Poole did not enter the hall as an honored prince. Instead, he wore the simple clothing of an ordinary traveler. His companions remained nearby, waiting quietly while he carried a large cloth bag over his shoulder. It appeared empty, hanging loosely at his side, though its purpose would soon become clear. The hall welcomed guests as it always had. Fires crackled warmly beneath the great beams overhead. Musicians played gentle melodies upon their harps, and long tables overflowed with food gathered from the surrounding countryside. Hospitality remained one of the highest virtues of medieval Wales. No traveler was expected to leave hungry, and even strangers were often offered a place beside the fire before their names were known. Poole stepped forward with quiet courtesy. According to custom, Gwal greeted the unknown visitor with kindness and asked what gift he desired. The request seemed simple enough. The traveler explained that he wished only for a small favor. He asked that his humble cloth bag be filled with food from the feast. The request drew warm smiles from those nearby. Such generosity cost very little, and servants quickly began placing bread, roasted meats, cheeses, and fruit into the waiting sack. Yet something curious happened. No matter how much food they added, the bag remained only partly filled. More food was brought. Still, the bag seemed no fuller than before. Those gathered in the hall watched with growing amazement. Basket after basket was emptied into the cloth sack, yet it continued to accept every offering without ever appearing full. Gentle laughter spread among the guests, who wondered whether the traveler had somehow brought an enchanted bag to the celebration. Stories preserved in the Mabinogion often delight in these quiet moments of wonder. Magic does not always arrive with brilliant flashes of light or fearsome creatures emerging from hidden places. Sometimes it appears through the smallest of objects, inviting listeners to smile as ordinary expectations gently give way to something impossible. At last, the traveler looked up and spoke. "There is only one way this bag can be filled," he said calmly. "A man of noble birth, whose foot rests upon the bag, must declare that it is full." The guests looked toward Gwal. The request seemed harmless enough. It required only a single step and a few simple words. Wishing to complete the generous gift, Gual walked forward without hesitation and placed one foot inside the open sack. In that very instant, Pool's companions sprang into action. With practiced speed, they drew the cloth upward, surrounding Gual before he could step away. The enchanted bag, so impossible to fill only moments before, now held exactly what it had been waiting for. The hall erupted in astonished cries, while the musicians fell silent and even the hearth fire seemed to crackle more softly against the sudden stillness. Pool removed his disguise. Those gathered around the hall immediately recognized the prince they had welcomed 1 year before. Yet there was no anger in his voice, nor triumph upon his face. The plan had never been meant to humiliate Gual. It was simply the peaceful solution that Rhiannon herself had wisely imagined, allowing a difficult promise to be resolved without bloodshed or lasting bitterness. Outside, evening settled gently across the hills. The ancient road remained exactly as it had always been, carrying travelers toward tomorrow while quietly reminding all who walked upon it that wisdom often finds gentler paths than force. For a few quiet moments, no one in the great hall spoke. The surprise of what had just happened settled gently over the gathering, like the evening mist drifting across the Welsh hills. The musicians rested their hands upon their instruments, the servants paused beside the long tables, and every eye turned toward Gual, waiting to see what he would do next. Though he had been outwitted, Gual did not answer with anger. From within the cloth bag, he acknowledged that the plan had been cleverly conceived. He understood that he had been fairly overcome, not by violence or cruelty, but by quick thinking and careful preparation. Seeing that further resistance would serve no purpose, he agreed to release his claim to Rhiannon's hand in marriage and asked only that he be treated with dignity. Pool immediately granted his request. The cloth bag was opened and Gual stepped free without harm. No harsh words followed him. No celebration rose at another person's disappointment. Instead, the tension that had quietly filled the hall slipped away as naturally as a passing rain shower, leaving behind a sense of relief that seemed to belong to everyone gathered there. The storytellers who preserved this tale understood something that remains true today. Lasting peace is often remembered more fondly than glorious victory. A disagreement settled with wisdom becomes part of the story, not because anyone was defeated, but because everyone was allowed to continue their lives without carrying the weight of needless bitterness. Gual accepted the outcome with grace. He offered his good wishes to Pool and Rhiannon, and the gathering welcomed his generosity of spirit. The great hall, which only moments before had been wrapped in uncertain silence, slowly filled once again with conversation. Harps resumed their gentle melodies, cups were lifted in quiet celebration, and the warm glow of the hearth seemed brighter than before. At last, the wedding so long anticipated could finally begin. Marriage ceremonies in medieval Wales were both joyful occasions and important public events. Families, neighbors, and honored guests gathered not simply to witness the joining of two people, but to celebrate the strengthening of the wider community. Feasts often continued well into the evening, accompanied by music, storytelling, and laughter that echoed through the timber halls long after darkness had settled outside. It is easy to imagine Rhiannon moving peacefully among her guests. She had shown remarkable patience over the passing years. She had trusted that careful planning would accomplish what haste never could. Throughout every challenge, she had remained true to herself, never abandoning kindness in pursuit of her own happiness. Those qualities, perhaps even more than beauty or noble birth, made her worthy of the admiration she has received for centuries. Outside, night settled softly over the countryside. The stars appeared one by one above the quiet hills of Dyfed. A pale moon rose beyond the distant forests, casting a silver light across the ancient road that stretched away from the hall. Somewhere in the darkness, an owl called from the branches of an old oak, while the gentle breeze carried the fragrance of heather and damp earth across the sleeping fields. The road had witnessed another turning in its long history. Travelers would continue to pass this way for generations yet to come. Some would know nothing of the wedding that had taken place nearby. Others would remember the tale and smile as they recalled the clever cloth bag, the patient prince, and the wise woman who had quietly guided events toward a peaceful ending. For Poole and Rhiannon, however, the journey was only beginning. The happiest chapters of our lives often seem to arrive with little fanfare. They begin with shared meals, familiar voices, and quiet evenings spent beneath open skies. Yet even as joy settles comfortably around us, the ancient road continues onward, leading gently toward places we cannot yet see. Before long, it would carry Rhiannon into a season of profound sorrow, where her patience and quiet strength would be tested more deeply than ever before. The years that followed passed with a gentle rhythm. Morning sunlight continued to warm the green hills of Dyfed. Shepherds led their flocks across familiar pastures, and travelers came and went along the ancient road. The seasons turned without hurry, each one leaving its own quiet mark upon the landscape before yielding gracefully to the next. Within the royal household, there was every reason for contentment. Poole and Rhiannon ruled together with wisdom and generosity, earning the respect of those who lived throughout the kingdom. The great hall remained a place of welcome, where guests found warm fires during winter evenings and cool shelter during the long days of summer. Music drifted through its timber beams, children laughed in the courtyards, and storytellers continued to pass along the old tales that had been carried across Wales for countless generations. In time, joyful news spread through the kingdom. Rhiannon gave birth to a son. The arrival of an heir brought quiet celebration to the court. Bells were not rung across the countryside, nor did great processions fill the roads. Instead, happiness settled naturally over the household, much like the first golden light that appears across the hills at dawn. Friends offered their blessings, servants smiled warmly as they passed through the halls, and everyone looked toward the future with hope. In the world of medieval Wales, the birth of a child carried meaning far beyond a single family. A son or daughter represented continuity, linking one generation to the next. Through children, stories, customs, and memories continued their long journey through time, just as the ancient road continued across the valleys without ever truly ending. On the night appointed to watch over the infant, several attendants remained in the nursery beside the sleeping child. Outside, the moon climbed quietly above the hills. A gentle breeze stirred the branches of ancient oaks, and somewhere beyond the palace walls, the soft call of a night bird echoed through the darkness. Within the chamber, the fire burned low, filling the room with a comforting warmth as the women settled into the peaceful rhythm of keeping watch. Hours passed. The child slept soundly, wrapped safely in soft blankets. The attendants spoke in hushed voices before silence gradually settled over the room. One by one, despite every effort to remain awake, weariness overcame them. Their eyes grew heavy, and eventually they drifted into an unexpected sleep. By the time the first light of morning touched the eastern sky, everything had changed. The cradle stood empty. No cries had awakened the household. No doors had been forced open. No footprints disturbed the earth beyond the chamber. The child had simply vanished into the quiet mystery of the night, leaving behind only unanswered questions and a silence that seemed almost impossible to understand. The attendants awoke in alarm. At first, they searched every corner of the room, believing the child must somehow have been moved. Then they searched the nearby halls, calling softly so as not to frighten one another. Yet every search ended the same way. The nursery remained peaceful, the palace remained still, and nowhere could the infant be found. Fear has a curious way of clouding even the wisest judgment. The attendants knew they had failed in the duty entrusted to them. In their growing panic, they imagined the consequences they might face. Rather than confessing that they had fallen asleep, they chose a path they would later regret, allowing fear to speak more loudly than truth. The old storytellers tell this part of Rhiannon's legend with remarkable restraint. They do not linger upon grief or seek to frighten their listeners. Instead, they allow the mystery to remain just beyond our understanding, reminding us that even the quietest lives sometimes encounter moments that cannot immediately be explained. Outside, the ancient road welcomed another dawn. Travelers began their journeys as they always had. Shepherds opened their gates. Birds greeted the morning from hedgerows bright with dew. The world continued its peaceful rhythm, unaware that within the royal hall, a mother's life had been changed before the sun had fully risen. As the morning unfolded, sorrow settled quietly over the royal household. Servants moved softly through the halls, speaking in lowered voices as words spread from room to room. The great hall that had so often echoed with music and cheerful conversation now seemed wrapped in a thoughtful silence, as though even the old timbers understood that something precious had been lost. The frightened attendants confessed only part of the truth. Ashamed that they had fallen asleep while watching the child, they allowed a far more painful story to take shape. They claimed that Rhiannon herself had been responsible for the disappearance of her son. It was a terrible accusation, born not from cruelty, but from fear, and once spoken aloud it became difficult to call back. The old Welsh storytellers never ask us to believe the accusation. Instead, they invite us to watch how Rhiannon responds. She does not answer with angry words or desperate cries. She knows that innocence does not always bring immediate understanding, and that truth sometimes walks a slower road than rumor. Her calm remains astonishing, not because she feels no grief, but because she refuses to allow grief to become bitterness. Those gathered at the court struggled to know what justice required. The child was gone, and no one could explain how such a thing had happened. In a world where stories and laws were carried by memory as much as by written record, difficult questions rarely found quick answers. The wisest course was often to seek a judgment that preserved peace while allowing time for truth to reveal itself. A remarkable sentence was passed. Rather than banishing Rhiannon or taking her life, she was required to sit beside the gate of the royal court each day for 7 years. Every traveler who arrived would hear her tell the story of what had happened. Then, as an act of humility and service, she would offer to carry each visitor upon her back into the hall, just as a faithful horse carries its rider along an ancient road. It is one of the most unforgettable images in all of Welsh mythology. Morning after morning, year after year, Rhiannon took her place beside the gate. Dew shimmered upon the grasses as the first travelers approached. Merchants arrived with wagons filled with cloth and grain. Shepherds paused while driving their flocks. Messengers, musicians, pilgrims, and wandering storytellers all passed along the ancient road before reaching the entrance to the court. To each one, she offered the same quiet greeting. She told her story without adding to it or diminishing it. She neither pleaded for sympathy nor argued for innocence. When her account was finished, she gently offered to carry the traveler into the hall if they wished. Most declined. They could see that such kindness was unnecessary, and many were moved by the dignity with which she bore her burden. They entered on foot, offering respectful words instead. In time, people came to admire Rhiannon not because she had escaped hardship, but because hardship had never stolen her compassion. The seasons continued their patient turning. Spring covered the hills with wildflowers, followed by the long warmth of summer. Autumn painted the forest with gold and copper before winter laid a quiet frost across the valleys. The ancient road witnessed every passing season without hurry, just as it had for countless generations, and beside that road sat Rhiannon, meeting each new day with the same gentle resolve. It is easy to imagine the birds that later came to be associated with her resting in the nearby trees. Their songs floated across the morning air, filling the silence between arriving travelers. Whether they were ordinary birds or the first echoes of the magical birds remembered in later chapters of her legend hardly seems to matter. Their music belonged naturally to the landscape, reminding everyone who listened that beauty continues to exist, even in seasons marked by sorrow. Years passed in this quiet rhythm. Children grew older. Young trees stretched higher toward the sky. Travelers who had once visited the court returned with silver beginning to touch their hair. Through it all, Rhiannon remained where the road and the gate met, greeting each newcomer with the same calm voice that had first spoken to Poole upon a misty morning many years before. The ancient road remembered. It had first carried a prince toward a mysterious rider on a white horse. Now it carried strangers toward a queen whose greatest strength was neither beauty nor cleverness, but the quiet patience to meet each day with grace, trusting that somewhere beyond the next bend, truth was still making its slow and faithful journey home. While the years passed quietly for Rhiannon, another story was unfolding many miles away. Beyond the rolling hills of Dyfed, where open pastures stretched toward distant woodlands, lived a nobleman named Rhiannon. He was known throughout the countryside as a man of honor, respected by his neighbors for his fairness and good judgment. His home stood among rich grazing lands where horses were carefully raised, and each spring brought the hopeful expectation of new foals. Yet one mystery returned with every passing year. Whenever Rhiannon's finest mare gave birth, the newborn foal vanished before sunrise. The mare remained unharmed, The stable showed no sign of disturbance, and no tracks led away into the surrounding fields. Year after year, the same strange event occurred, leaving everyone who witnessed it searching for an explanation that never seemed to come. Legends often begin with mysteries that cannot be solved by ordinary means. The old Welsh storytellers understood that the world could still hold secrets beyond human understanding. A quiet stable beneath the stars might become the meeting place between the familiar world and one touched by enchantment, where patience and courage mattered more than certainty. Determined to learn the truth, Rhiannon decided that this year he would remain awake throughout the night. Outside, darkness settled gently across the countryside. Clouds drifted before the moon, allowing only scattered patches of silver light to reach the fields below. The stable remained peaceful. The mare rested quietly upon fresh straw, while the nobleman kept watch with patient eyes, listening to the familiar sounds of horses shifting softly in their stalls. Near midnight, the foal was born. For a brief time, everything seemed perfectly ordinary. The young animal struggled to its feet beneath its mother's watchful gaze, while Rhiannon allowed himself to believe that perhaps the strange misfortune had finally come to an end. Then the stable door burst open. From the darkness reached an enormous claw unlike anything the nobleman had ever seen. It stretched silently into the stable, grasping toward the newborn foal with frightening speed. The storytellers never linger over the creature itself. Like so many mysteries in Celtic legend, it remains only partly seen, allowing our imaginations to fill the spaces left unexplained. Even today, no one can say with certainty exactly what Rhiannon faced that night. Perhaps that is why the story has remained so memorable for so many centuries. Without hesitation, Rhiannon drew his sword. With a single powerful stroke, he severed the great claw before it could carry the foal away. A cry echoed across the dark hills before fading into the night, and just as suddenly as it had appeared, the unseen creature disappeared into the darkness beyond the stable. Silence returned. Only the gentle breathing of the mare and her foal disturbed the stillness. As Rhiannon stepped outside to discover what had fled into the night, he found something entirely unexpected. Lying upon the dew-covered grass was a small child, wrapped warmly in fine cloth and sleeping peacefully beneath the fading moonlight. The infant showed no sign of fear. It was as though someone had gently laid him upon the hillside only moments before, trusting that he would be found before the dawn. The nobleman knelt beside the child. He looked across the quiet fields, searching for anyone who might have left the infant there. The countryside answered only with the soft whisper of the breeze moving through the grasses. The ancient hills revealed no secret, and the stars above offered no explanation. So Rhiannon lifted the child into his arms. The road that had quietly accompanied our journey since the beginning of Rhiannon's story now reached beyond the royal court into another corner of Wales, joining two lives that had never met. Neither the nobleman nor the sleeping child could yet know that every gentle step toward home also carried them toward a joyful reunion that had been patiently waiting through the passing years. Rhiannon carried the sleeping child into his hall as dawn slowly spread across the countryside. The first rays of sunlight touched the stable roof, warmed the dew upon the fields, and awakened birds whose songs drifted through the open windows. The mystery of the night had quietly given way to the peaceful rhythm of morning, Yet the nobleman knew that the little boy in his arms had arrived by no ordinary path. His wife welcomed the child with great tenderness. Though they had no children of their own, she cared for the infant as though he had always belonged in their home. Together, they chose to raise him with kindness, never forgetting that somewhere another family might still be searching for the little one they had lost. The boy grew with remarkable speed. Each passing season seemed to bring new signs of unusual promise. Before long, he was walking confidently through the meadows surrounding the house, delighting in every horse that grazed in the nearby fields. As he grew older, his quick mind matched his cheerful spirit, and everyone who met him noticed the quiet confidence that seemed to come as naturally to him as breathing. The years passed as they always do. Spring blossoms returned to the hedgerows. Summer filled the hills with the scent of heather and wild thyme. Autumn painted the woodlands in warm shades of amber and copper before winter laid its gentle frost upon the valleys. The ancient road continued to welcome travelers from every direction, while the child who had once been found sleeping beneath the stars grew into a bright and capable young boy. Those who knew Rhiannon often remarked upon the child's appearance. There was something familiar about him, though no one could quite explain why. At times his expression seemed strangely noble for one so young. At other moments, the kindness in his eyes reminded visitors of someone they felt they ought to remember. Such quiet observations drifted through conversations like passing clouds, noticed for a moment before gently moving on. Rhiannon himself began to wonder. The older the boy became, the more difficult it was to believe that chance alone had placed him outside the stable on that remarkable night. The mystery of the missing foals had ended the very evening the child appeared. Whatever strange thread had joined those events together seemed now to be leading toward another destination. One evening, as the family gathered beside the fire, Rhiannon reflected upon all that had happened. The warmth of the hearth flickered across the room while shadows danced gently upon the timber walls. Outside, the stars shone above the quiet hills, just as they had on the night when the child first entered his life. Looking across at the boy, Rhiannon realized that love sometimes asks us to release what we most cherish when doing so is right. He decided the child must be returned to the royal court. It was not an easy decision. The boy had become part of the family in every way that mattered. His laughter had filled the house, his footsteps had become familiar upon the stone floors, and every season had woven him more deeply into their lives. Yet kindness is measured not only by what we choose to keep, but also by what we willingly restore to others. When the time came to begin the journey, preparations were made without haste. The horses were saddled before sunrise. Food was packed carefully for the road ahead, and warm cloaks were folded against the cool mornings that often lingered across the Welsh hills. The boy climbed happily into the saddle beside Rhiannon, unaware that the road he was about to travel would lead him back to the parents who had never stopped mourning his loss. The ancient road stretched before them once again. It wound through peaceful valleys, crossed quiet streams, and climbed gentle hills where sheep grazed beneath an endless sky. Travelers passed with friendly greetings, unaware that they had just met a child whose story had already become part of Welsh legend. The road had carried princes, queens, shepherds, and storytellers across these hills for generations. Now it carried hope itself, moving steadily toward the place where sorrow and joy would soon meet at last. The journey drew steadily toward its end. Day by day, the familiar hills of Daved rose once more upon the horizon. Streams crossed beneath weathered wooden bridges, fields stretched toward distant forests, and the ancient road continued its patient course through the countryside. Every mile carried Rhiannon and the young boy a little closer to a truth that had been waiting quietly through the passing years. The child rode happily beside him. He delighted in every new village they passed and watched with curiosity as shepherds guided their flocks across the green slopes. When travelers offered a friendly greeting, he returned each smile with cheerful warmth. There was nothing to suggest that his life was about to change forever. For him, it was simply another journey beneath the wide Welsh sky. As the travelers approached the royal court, familiar sights greeted Rhiannon. The timber hall stood proudly upon the rise, its roofs weathered by many seasons of wind and rain. Smoke curled gently from the hearth fires, while voices drifted across the courtyard where servants and visitors quietly attended to the day's work. The place seemed peaceful, yet there lingered an unmistakable feeling that some old sorrow still rested quietly within its walls. Before entering, Rhiannon paused beside the ancient road. He rested a hand upon the neck of his horse and looked toward the great gate where travelers had arrived for countless generations. It was there that he noticed a woman seated quietly near the entrance, greeting each newcomer with calm courtesy. Rhiannon remained faithful to the judgment she had accepted so many years before. Each morning she took her place beside the gate. Each traveler heard the same quiet account of the night her child had disappeared. Each visitor received the same gentle offer to be carried into the hall upon her back, though few accepted. The years had not hardened her spirit. Instead, they had polished her patience until it shone with a quiet strength that seemed almost beyond ordinary understanding. Rhiannon watched her for several moments. There was no bitterness in her face, no resentment toward those who had misunderstood her. Even after so many years, she welcomed strangers with the same grace that had once greeted Poole beside the misty road. Looking upon her, Rhiannon found it impossible to believe that such a woman could ever have harmed her own child. He stepped forward and offered a respectful greeting. Rhiannon welcomed him warmly, just as she welcomed every traveler who came to the court. She quietly shared the story she had told so many times before, describing the peaceful night, the mysterious disappearance, and the judgment she had accepted without complaint. Her voice remained steady throughout, carrying neither anger nor despair, only the calm honesty of someone who had learned to place her trust in time. When she had finished, Rhiannon remained silent for a moment. His thoughts returned to the strange night in the stable. He remembered the enormous claw reaching through the doorway, the sleeping infant wrapped in fine cloth, and the years that had followed. Piece by piece, the scattered fragments of two separate stories began fitting together like stones carefully placed upon an ancient path. At last he spoke. He told Rhiannon everything. He described the yearly disappearance of the foals, his decision to keep watch, the mysterious creature that had reached into the stable, and the child he had discovered beneath the stars before dawn. He spoke of the boy's kindness, his unusual bearing, and the growing certainty that the child had always belonged somewhere beyond his own household. As Rhiannon's story unfolded, A quiet stillness settled over the courtyard. Travelers slowed their steps. Servants paused in their work. Even the gentle sounds of the village seemed to soften, as though the ancient road itself had stopped for a moment to listen. For the first time in many years, hope entered the place where sorrow had patiently kept its watch. The road had carried many stories across the hills of Wales. Now, at last, two of those stories had found one another. What had begun beside a lonely stable beneath the stars was about to bring healing to a family that had never surrendered the quiet hope that one day truth would finally arrive. For a long moment, no one spoke. The quiet courtyard seemed to hold its breath as Ternon's words settled gently upon those who had gathered near the gate. The breeze stirred the branches of the old trees beyond the walls, carrying with it the soft fragrance of summer grasses. Somewhere high above, a lark continued its cheerful song, unaware that a family's long season of sorrow was drawing to its peaceful end. Rhiannon looked toward the young boy. She did not rush forward. She did not cry out in disbelief. Instead, she regarded him with the same quiet grace that had guided every step of her life. The child returned her gaze with innocent curiosity, seeing only a kindly woman whose eyes seemed filled with both joy and wonder. Poole soon joined them. Having heard that an unexpected visitor had arrived with remarkable news, he came quickly to the courtyard, where Ternan once again told the story from beginning to end. Nothing was hurried. Nothing was exaggerated. The years had already carried the truth safely this far, and there was no need for it to arrive in haste. As the tale was completed, understanding slowly spread among those who listened. The child had never been lost forever. He had been protected, cared for, and loved in another home until the proper time had come for his return. What had once appeared to be an unending tragedy had quietly become a story of unexpected kindness, linking two households that had never imagined their lives were connected. The old Welsh storytellers often allow healing to arrive in this gentle way. Justice is restored without vengeance. Truth appears without humiliating those who once misunderstood it. Time itself becomes part of the remedy, reminding us that some answers cannot be forced into existence before their appointed season. The judgment placed upon Rhiannon was lifted. No longer would she sit beside the gate telling the story of her sorrow to passing travelers. No longer would she offer to carry strangers upon her back as an act of humility. The long years of patient endurance had come to their quiet conclusion, not through anger or argument, but through the steady arrival of truth. Those gathered at the court rejoiced. The great hall, which had witnessed both celebration and grief through the passing years, once again filled with welcoming voices. Fires were lit, tables were prepared, and guests were invited to share in the happiness of a family restored. Music echoed beneath the timber roof, while outside the evening sun cast long golden light across the hills of Daved. The boy was welcomed home with great affection. In time, he would become known as Pryderi, a name that would appear again and again throughout the ancient Welsh tales. He would grow into a respected ruler in his own right, his own adventures eventually becoming woven into the rich tapestry of stories preserved in the Mabinogion. Yet on this peaceful evening, he was simply a child returned to the embrace of those who had never stopped loving him. Ternan and his wife were honored with deep gratitude. Their kindness had preserved a life and healed a kingdom. Although parting from the child they had raised could not have been easy, they carried with them the quiet satisfaction of knowing that love had found its rightful destination. Their names would forever remain joined with Rhiannon's legend, remembered wherever her story was told. As twilight settled across the countryside, the ancient road lay bathed in the warm colors of the setting sun. Its winding path stretched beyond the royal court, disappearing once more among the gentle hills. It had carried Rhiannon toward Poole on a misty morning. It had welcomed travelers to a wedding feast, witnessed years of patient waiting, and finally guided a lost child safely home. Through every joy and every sorrow, the road had remained unchanged, quietly reminding all who walked upon it that the longest journeys are not always measured by miles, but by faith, kindness, and the patient turning of the seasons. Night gathered softly over Wales. The first stars appeared above the darkening hills, and somewhere beyond the quiet fields, the steady rhythm of distant hoofbeats echoed once more along the ancient road. The journey that had begun in mystery had found its peaceful ending, yet Rhiannon's story would continue to travel wherever people gathered to remember the old legends, carrying with it the enduring wisdom that patience often reaches places where haste never can. With peace restored to the royal household, the old storytellers allowed the pace of the legend to soften once more. The ancient road continues across the hills of Wales, leaving the royal court behind as it winds through quiet valleys and over gentle ridges where heather blooms in late summer. The white horse is nowhere to be seen, yet somehow its steady hoofbeats still seem to echo across the countryside, carried upon the breeze like a memory that never entirely fades. As the years passed, another part of Rhiannon's story took flight. It was said that she possessed 3 extraordinary birds whose songs were unlike any music heard in the ordinary world. Their voices drifted across the boundaries between this world and Annwn, carrying a beauty so profound that every listener found themselves drawn into quiet reflection. They did not command attention with great volume or dazzling display. Instead, they sang with such gentleness that the world itself seemed to pause and listen. The old Welsh tales tell us that these birds could soothe the sorrowful and awaken hope within weary hearts. At other times, their songs were said to lull listeners into a peaceful sleep unlike any ordinary slumber. Time itself seemed to lose its urgency while the melodies filled the air. A few quiet moments might pass like an afternoon, while an entire evening could seem no longer than a single breath carried upon the wind. It is a beautiful image. For thousands of years, birds have occupied a special place within Celtic imagination. They move effortlessly between earth and sky, disappearing into distant clouds before returning once more to familiar branches. They seem to belong to more than one world at a time, making them natural companions for stories that stand upon the gentle threshold between history and legend. Perhaps that is why Rhiannon's birds have remained so memorable. They are never described as fierce guardians or magical creatures to be feared. Instead, they offer comfort. Their gift is music rather than power, peace rather than victory. In a world where many legends celebrate heroic battles and mighty kings, these quiet birds remind us that gentleness possesses its own enduring strength. Imagine standing upon one of the high Welsh hills as evening slowly approaches. The last warmth of the sun rests upon the distant valleys, while ribbons of lavender mist begin gathering among the lower fields. The breeze carries the fragrance of heather and wild thyme across the open landscape. Then, almost too softly to notice at first, the music begins. The song comes from no single direction. It seems to float upon the evening air itself, moving lightly from hillside to hillside before disappearing beyond the next valley. The melody asks nothing of those who hear it. It simply exists, filling the quiet spaces between thoughts until the cares of the day begin to feel wonderfully far away. Scholars have long reflected upon the meaning of these remarkable birds. Some have suggested that they represent the healing power of music itself. Others believe they preserve much older Celtic traditions in which birds served as gentle messengers between worlds. Like so many elements within Welsh mythology, no single explanation entirely captures their mystery, and perhaps that uncertainty is part of their lasting charm. The storytellers seem perfectly content to leave the question unanswered. They simply invite us to listen. As darkness settles across the hills, the birds continue their quiet singing while the ancient road disappears into the gathering twilight. Travelers make their way home beneath the first stars of evening, comforted by melodies that seem as timeless as the landscape itself. Somewhere beyond the mist, where memory and legend meet, Rhiannon's birds still lift their gentle voices, reminding every listener that some songs never truly come to an end. If you linger a little longer beside the ancient road, you may begin to notice something that hurried travelers often miss. The hills possess their own quiet music. A breeze moves gently through tall grasses, carrying the scent of heather across the open countryside. Small streams wander patiently over smooth stones before disappearing into groves of alder and willow. Somewhere among the branches, unseen birds greet one another with simple morning songs that have welcomed the dawn for countless generations. Perhaps it was among landscapes like these that the old storytellers first imagined the birds of Rhiannon. They did not belong to cages or royal gardens. Their home was the wide sky above the hills, where earth and clouds seem almost close enough to touch. They flew freely over forests, rivers, and quiet valleys, their songs carried wherever the wind was willing to take them. The legends tell us that their music possessed remarkable gifts. Those burdened by grief found their hearts growing lighter as they listened. Those weary by long journeys discovered that their thoughts became peaceful once more. Even sorrow itself seemed willing to loosen its careful grip for a little while, allowing listeners to rest beneath the gentle comfort of the birds' melodies. It is not difficult to understand why. Music has always accompanied the lives of ordinary people. Long before books became common, songs carried memories from one generation to the next. Harvests, weddings, journeys, and quiet evenings beside the hearth all found their own melodies. A familiar tune could travel farther than any written page, returning years later with every note still carefully remembered. The people of Celtic Wales understood this deeply. For them, the world was alive with voices. Wind whispered through ancient oaks. Rivers spoke softly over polished stones. Ravens called from distant cliffs, while tiny wrens filled hedgerows with cheerful songs that seemed far larger than the little birds themselves. Every season brought a different chorus, and every chorus became part of the landscape's memory. Perhaps that is why Rhiannon's birds never seem out of place. They belong naturally to a countryside already filled with music. Some storytellers said their songs could be heard from great distances, sounding close enough to touch and yet impossibly far away at the same time. Others believed that those who followed the melodies too eagerly might find themselves wandering gently toward the hidden places where the ordinary world brushed against a none. Yet even these tales carry little fear. The birds do not tempt or deceive. They simply sing, leaving each traveler free to choose whether to pause and listen. Imagine sitting quietly upon one of the old stone walls that still cross the Welsh hills. Morning mist drifts lazily through the valley below, while sunlight slowly warms the fields beyond. A robin begins its cheerful greeting from a nearby hedge. A blackbird answers from an ancient oak. Then, carried almost imperceptibly upon the breeze, another melody joins them, softer than the rest, beautiful enough that for just a moment the entire countryside seems to grow wonderfully still. No one hurries to identify the singer. No one feels the need to explain every note. The music is enough. Perhaps that is the greatest gift the birds of Rhiannon continue to offer. Not certainty, not answers, only the quiet invitation to pause beside the ancient road, listen without expectation, and discover that the world has always been filled with songs waiting patiently to be heard. As the stories of Rhiannon were told and retold across the centuries, listeners remembered many remarkable moments. They remembered the white horse that no rider could overtake. They remembered the clever plan that resolved a difficult promise without bloodshed. They remembered the years of quiet patience beside the gate, and the joyful reunion that finally brought a lost child home. Yet beneath every chapter of her legend, another story continued to unfold with gentle consistency. It was the story of character. In many ancient tales, heroes are remembered for extraordinary strength or astonishing feats. Their names become attached to great battles, impossible journeys, or magical treasures won through courage. Rhiannon's legend follows a different path. Again and again, she changes the course of events not through force, but through calm judgment, quiet confidence, and an unwavering kindness that never disappears, even when life becomes unexpectedly difficult. Perhaps that is one reason her story has endured for so many generations. Every age has understood what it means to wait patiently for better days. Every generation has known disappointment, uncertainty, and the hope that tomorrow may reveal what today cannot. Rhiannon's life reminds us that patience is not simply waiting. It is choosing to meet each new morning with grace, trusting that truth has a way of finding its own steady path. The ancient road has taught the same lesson for countless years. It never hurries toward the horizon. It does not become discouraged by rain or slowed by winter snow. Season after season, traveler after traveler, it quietly continues, carrying each journey forward one gentle step at a time. Those who walk upon it eventually discover that the destination arrives not because the road changes, but because they continue walking. It is easy to imagine Rhiannon riding once more across the hills of Wales. The white horse moves with its familiar, effortless rhythm, following winding paths that climb gentle ridges before disappearing into valleys bright with morning mist. Birds sing from hedgerows filled with hawthorn and rowan, while sunlight glimmers upon streams that have reflected these same skies for centuries. Nothing seems hurried. Nothing asks to be noticed more loudly than the quiet beauty already present. The old Welsh storytellers understood the value of such moments. Their legends were often shared beside evening fires after the work of the day had been completed. Outside, darkness gathered over the countryside while families listened together, allowing familiar voices to carry ancient memories into another generation. The stories became companions rather than performances, offering comfort as much as entertainment. Perhaps that is how Rhiannon herself has continued her long journey through time. She has traveled not only through old manuscripts and scholarly studies, but through countless evenings like those, where ordinary people gathered simply to listen. Parents shared her story with children. Travelers repeated it along quiet roads. Poets found new meanings within its gentle wisdom, while artists imagined the white horse crossing mist-covered hills beneath a pale moon. Even today, the landscape of Wales still seems to welcome her memory. Ancient paths continue to cross the countryside, much as they always have. Hills rise gently beneath wide skies, rivers find their way toward the sea, and morning mist still lingers in the valleys before the sun slowly lifts it away. Whether or not a traveler believes every detail of the old legends matters very little. The stories have become part of the landscape itself, woven so naturally into the hills that they seem almost impossible to separate. As evening settles once again across the ancient road, the journey grows wonderfully quiet. The last light fades behind the distant ridges, and the first stars appear above the peaceful countryside. Somewhere far ahead, almost hidden by the soft lavender mist, a white horse continues its unhurried walk. The rider never seems far away, yet never quite close enough to reach. There is no need to catch her now. It is enough simply to walk the road together for a little while longer. The moon has climbed high above the hills of Wales. The ancient road lies quiet beneath its pale light, winding gently through sleeping valleys where ribbons of mist gather above the fields. The last windows of the distant farmhouses have grown dark, and only the soft murmur of a nearby stream keeps the silence company. You have walked this road a long way. It has carried you across green hills bright with morning dew, into welcoming halls filled with music and laughter, beside quiet gates where patience waited through the turning of 7 long years, and onward to peaceful reunions that arrived only when the time was right. Through every season, the road has remained unchanged, waiting without hurry for those willing to follow where it leads. Now, there is only the quiet rhythm of the night. Somewhere ahead, hoofbeats echo, slow and unhurried, one after another. They drift through the mist before fading once more into the stillness. For a moment, the white horse appears upon a distant ridge, its pale coat glowing softly beneath the moonlight. Rhiannon sits calmly in the saddle, just as she did when our journey first began. She neither beckons nor turns away. She simply continues along the ancient road with the same gentle confidence that has carried her through every chapter of her story. The distance between you never changes. There is no need for it to. Some journeys are not meant to end at a destination. They are meant to become part of the road itself, returning each time the story is remembered beneath a quiet evening sky. The mist slowly gathers once again. The white horse disappears beyond the next rise. The hoofbeats grow softer, then softer still, until only the breeze remains, moving gently through the grasses beneath the stars. Thank you for joining me on this peaceful journey through the legend of Rhiannon. If you enjoyed this evening's walk through mythology and folklore, I hope you'll explore more stories here on the Sleepy Legends channel, where ancient roads, forgotten kingdoms, and timeless legends are always waiting just beyond the next hill. Until our paths cross again, may your evening be peaceful, your dreams be gentle, and your night be filled with quiet wonder. Good night.